All right, so in this video, I'm going to be showing you the different types of slope and how to determine those slopes. But basically, my focus here will be the positive and the negative slope. So there are four basic types of slope, especially for a linear graph. We have the positive, negative, zero slope, and undefined slope. The first thing is how do we let me first explain this to before I come to positive and negative. When are you likely to have a zero slope? A zero slope is the kind of slope where you have a graph like this and you have the line being straight, right? This particular slope, right, change in what? Change in y over change in x here will be equal to what? Zero. Now, this is the kind of situation where we have um, um, constant velocity on a velocity time graph, because at constant velocity, the acceleration is equal to zero. Of course, acceleration is changing velocity in time. So if you um, that's that's just basically its relationship to velocity time graph. So basically, when you have a straight line, the region where you have a straight line like this, change in y over change in x will be equal to zero. So this is what we call what? Zero what? Slope. So if you see a straight line like this and you are required to determine the slope, don't stress yourself. The slope is zero. All right. Now let's now consider a case where we have an undefined slope. I'm still coming to positive and negative. A slope is undefined when you have the line like this. For example, so if you have a line like this and you are asked to find the slope of this line, so the change in y over change in x here is what? Undefined. So this infinity sign implies what? Undefined. Okay, so that is that. So that is not the basis of what I'm trying to do here. My focus here now is to explain the positive and negative slope, though I've showed in one of the videos how to determine the slope of a graph. But how are you going to know if a slope is going to be positive or negative? A slope can be positive or negative. So let me scroll up. So let me start with positive slope. Excuse me. Positive, positive slope. A slope of a graph will be positive if the graph actually rises. And this is not dependent on the axis of the graph. For instance, all this type of graph that I want to draw here will give you a positive slope. For instance, if you have a graph like this, irrespective of how you draw it, this will give you a positive slope, right? If you have another one like this, if you have another one like this, um, if you have another one like this will still give you a positive as long as it rises up. Because at the end of it, if you want to draw the right triangle will face, you know, it will face the right hand side, and as long as it's facing the right hand side, the slope will be positive. So this will give you a positive. So this is change in y over what? Change in x. So this is y and this is what? X. Don't forget this is your y2, this is y1. Even though if you trace this to negative and this is x2, you trace it to x, then this is what? X1. You trace it up here. You trace this one, y1 here, you trace it up. The same thing applies here. This is change in y over change in what? X. So this one will give you, this is y2, this is what? Y1, this is x2, this is what? X1. As long as your line goes up, irrespective of the axis of the graph. If you look at this graph, it actually passes through, it has an intercept on negative y, it will still give you a positive slope, right? So that is that about that. Now let's now move on to negative slope. So for negative slope, negative slope, how does a negative slope look like? How does a negative slope look like? A negative slope is the kind of slope you have when you have a graph like this. Look at it. So let me see draw. So if you have something like this will give you a negative slope. Let's say you still have another graph like this. I'm trying to Okay, wait. Okay, I think I'm getting it right. If you still have a graph, okay, no. If you still have something like this, I'm trying to see if I can. Okay, yeah, I think I've been able to figure out something for the next. So if you have something like this, and the graph goes like this, right? So don't forget that labeling this graph, this is what? Positive y, this is positive x, this is negative x, this is what? Negative y. So this is positive y, this is what? Positive x, this is negative x, this is what? Negative what? Y. So what we are going to be having is, so if I want to draw the right triangle will be towards the left hand side, right? So this will give you a negative slope. This is change in y, this is change in x. So this is what? Y2, this is y1, this is x2, this is what? X1. So for this one as well, if I want to draw the right triangle will be like this, right? So I maintain, there are cases whereby you draw it up here, but because of consistency, that's why I've always have. So this is still your y2, y1, x2, and x1. So this is changing y, this is changing x. So you trace your y2 to this side, you trace your y1 to this side. Of course, it will be traced to negative. X2, you trace it to x, x1, trace it back to x. So this change in y over change in x, right, will be less than 0, which is what? Which is negative. All right, this one too, change in y over change in x will be less than what? 0, which is negative. So I want to believe this video has helped someone. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Your subscription encourages me to go further in producing more videos. So try and comment. See you in the next video. Thank you.